We are so lucky to have Gary Van Such and his team with us today. Gary is the Director of Process Improvement for the Colorado Department of Transportation, or CDOT. He has over 40 years of business improvement and change leadership experience. Michelle Malloy has worked at CDOT for 14 years and is currently the project leader for CDOT's Concept to Project, or C2P initiative. Presenting along with Gary and Michelle are the Office of Process Improvements Fellow and interns. Kaylee Smiley is a third-year Applied Mathematics PhD student at CU Denver. Lubna Jamal is a recent MBA graduate from CU Denver. Samantha Millison is graduating this semester from CU Boulder with a bachelor's degree in mathematics and a minor in economics and atmospheric oceanic sciences. Stephen Barella is a first-generation collegiate graduate with a bachelor's degree in business management from MSU Denver. Rebecca Rue recently graduated from Kutztown University with a dual honors degree in environmental science with a focus in biology and anthropology. And last but not least, Riley Wiesler is a Boise State graduate with a bachelor's degree in global studies and a French minor. Take it away, Gary.
Thank you, Rachel, and thank you to everyone at Results Washington. Thank you to Kelly and Janine for providing ASL's interpretation services today. As Rachel noted, officially, I'm Gary Van Such, Director of Process Improvement at Colorado Department of Transportation, which we'll call CDOT. Unofficially, I'm the most fortunate person on the planet for many reasons. I have a wonderful wife of many years. I have two wonderful children who are grown and providing great service in science and education. And I have the very best job on the planet because, well, for lots of reasons, it's wonderful to provide public service. And I have the very best team ever, the very best team ever. You're going to have a chance to hear from many of them today after I have some introductory remarks. Next. And another reason I'm the most fortunate person on the planet is that we've had this wonderful partnership with Results Washington. Here in Colorado, we believe in supporting the home team. For instance, I have my lucky Denver Nuggets tie on today, although Denver Nuggets have not been doing very well against the Northwest Portland Trailblazers recently. And we have this wonderful partnership over many years with Results Washington, where they have made us part of their home team over the past decade. On this slide, you can see some of where that partnership has been. In the upper right-hand corner, during last year's Results Washington conference, we had a chance to talk about the intermingle of project management and change management here at CDOT. In some of the in-person sessions during the prior Results Washington conferences, we had a chance to talk about building change capability. I had this wonderful opportunity to work with, to present with Amber Sander from the Washington State Department of Transportation in 2017 about how we're mutually using lean process improvement. In 2016, had a chance to talk with the conference about improving lean through communities of practice, and even had a session, a live session of our Transportation Lean Forum Community of Practice, one of the webinars that we have every other month. Thank you for those opportunities. And you also see a photo of one of our early process improvement teams from a decade ago. That process improvement team developed one of the things you'll be hearing about today, our Lean Everyday Ideas program. As part of benchmarking, we benchmarked with Results Washington and with Washington State Department of Transportation. And they provided us with other contacts, including the Virginia Mason Medical Center in Seattle, where we partnered and actually copied a lot of what they're doing in terms of improvement and Kaizen. So Results Washington, thank you for making us part of the home team. Thank you for that decade of partnership. And we look forward to future partnerships, including today's session. Next. In today's session, we're going to talk a little bit about CDOT, our Colorado Department of Transportation, and including the first decade of improvement and innovation here at CDOT. Then we're going to talk about our Lean Everyday Ideas program, which was the centerpiece of that first decade, transition to what we call Concept to Project, our next evolution of innovation and improvement here in Colorado, and then we'll have some questions and some concluding remarks. Next. Many of you may not know about the Colorado Department of Transportation. So I have a few slides to introduce what we are. You can see where we are located, and at CDOT, we serve the Centennial State. We're 3,000 Coloradans. were scattered over the 200 at 200 different staff locations. You see a map there of Colorado, and the map looks like it has freckles. Well, every place you see a yellow freckle is someplace where we have a member of Team CDOT scattered across the state. And of course, that makes sense that we're scattered across the state. Our transportation system serves the entire state. It serves the citizens of the state and everybody from other states that use our transportation system to get across the country. So we have Team CDOT members across the state in our important mission to plan, build, operate, and maintain the Colorado transportation system. Next. There are a few facts about CDOT for those of you that may not know about CDOT. Our vision is to enhance the quality of life and environment by creating an integrated transportation system. The transportation system exists to help other people. From some of the facts, there's a lot of facts there. I won't read them all. I think it is interesting that we have 866 snowplows. It's snowing in Colorado right now in various places. Those snowplows are being deployed to help us maintain that travel across Colorado using the transportation system. We have 35 major mountain passes, more than any other state. And we have 278 avalanche passes that we have mapped and that we monitor and that we maintain to ensure that those avalanche paths and that the avalanches that might come down through them don't impact our transportation system. And again, all in the service of planning, building, operating, and maintaining the Colorado transportation system. Next. And we have some wonderful drivers for improvement and innovation that help us gain momentum and keep momentum across the state. Next. One of those is our enduring CDOT values. And we have 6 values. I call them the Spicer values because that's the first letter of the name of each of the values: safety, people, integrity, customer service, excellence, and respect. And the excellence value is almost the exact definition of lean process improvement. We're committed to quality. We are leaders and problem solvers, continuously improving our products and services in support of our commitment to provide the best transportation system for Colorado. These values are multi-generational values. I've talked with members of Team CDOT who have been at CDOT 40 years, and they remember these values during their first year. They're at least 40 years old, and they go back further than that, I believe. They are enduring values that help us in a lot of ways, including this continuous improvement culture that we have built at CDOT. Next. And then across Colorado state government, the legislature about a decade ago passed the Colorado Smart Government Act, SMART standing for State Measurement for Accountable, Responsible, and Transparent Government. And among other things, it requires that state agencies incorporate lean continuous improvement to increase government efficiency. So we have our values, we have our legislature, we have our citizens saying we want this transportation system to be improved. It's wonderful, wonderful support for all the efforts we have to improve our products and services at CDOT. Next. And we know from benchmarking, including benchmarking with Washington State, that structure and execution matter, and you're going to hear about that today. It mattered for the first decade of improvement and innovation at CDOT, and it matters for the second decade of innovation, improvement, and engagement at CDOT. The Office of Process Improvement, I'm the director of that staff. The other people that you'll hear about from today are from that staff. We report into a key executive at CDOT, Sally Chafee, our chief of staff, who in turn reports to our chief executive, Shoshana Liu. Having the right structure and having the right execution and having the right people in place can make wonderful things happen. Next. And you're going to hear about some of those wonderful things regarding our Lean Everyday Ideas program, which was a centerpiece of our first decade of innovation and improvement here at CDOT. I'm going to turn it over to my teammate, Becca Root.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having us today. I've been an intern with the OPI team for about 7 months now. And while a lot of exciting things have been happening, like the 2022 Innovations Challenge and helping people innovate in general, Gary and Michelle have been helping people like this since 2011, which is 10 years. In celebrating the first decade of OPI, we are also excited to look forward to the next decade. Helping ensure that each and every person can be successful with each and every change that impacts them. In our next decade, we are looking forward to achieving even more. To the right, you'll see different innovators at CDOT we've helped and some of their innovations. Next. The LEI program that resulted from this initiative is built on our values, especially the excellence value highlighted in red, and is meant to reflect these values in how we approach innovation and improvement. We are very proud that over the past decade, this program has achieved the top 25 Innovations in American Government Award from Harvard Kennedy School, the 2020 Innovation in the Workplace Award, and the 2017 Employee Engagement Award from Inspiring Workplaces. The QR code on this slide will bring you to our idea card database, where we've made cards for different innovations, making them easy to share and replicate. Next slide. We've won these awards by always being on the cutting edge of innovation and looking for new resources we can use to help others innovate. Recently, our fellow Kaylee Smiley collaborated with Dean Schroeder, who published a book with Alan Robinson entitled Practical Innovation in Government. This was an exciting partnership, and we were thrilled to have this opportunity. Dean allowed Kaylee to see the book before it was published, and she wrote an excellent book review that you can find on our website by scanning the QR code to the right. He then came and spoke about his book at an event hosted by our team at CDOT headquarters. Next slide. We are excited to move forward over the next 10 years to see what our great innovators will come up with at CDOT. I'll now hand it off to Samantha Millicent to talk more about our LEI goals.
Thank you, Becca, and thank you to all of our friends at Results Washington. I will now discuss the goals behind Lean Everyday Ideas. Our main objective behind Lean Everyday Ideas involves fostering a culture of improvement, where new ideas are valued, tested, implemented, and shared by engaging everyone in improving the business. Everyone at CDOT is encouraged to identify opportunities to make improvements to their workplaces and work processes every day. And Lean Everyday Ideas allows people to identify a problem or opportunity, develop an innovation, and share it with others to support improvement. Next. And this is a really good picture because it demonstrates how frontline staff sees a lot more than just the surface when it comes to problems, whereas management may only see the tip of the iceberg. That's why inclusion is so important when fostering an improvement culture, because some people can see areas for improvement that others may not notice. So including everyone is extremely crucial and prioritized with Lean Everyday Ideas. Next. And we certainly agree with this quote that says, "The most dangerous phrase in the language is, we've always done it this way." And I really dislike this phrase due to the fact that just because something has always been done a certain way doesn't mean that it is the best way to do it now. This phrase is a barrier towards achieving a culture of improvement, and stepping out of one's routine or comfort zone by doing something in a new way has the opportunity for great success that otherwise would not have been possible by doing something the same way over and over again. Next. One way that Lean Everyday Ideas innovations are achieving their goal of improvement is by streamlining processes. This diagram shows how a process can be simplified from a process that takes multiple days to one that only takes a few hours. This was an innovation by Bryce Shuck, the Aeronautics Division business manager, who noted that when it came to processing the different tax reimbursements, the former excise process took 25% of his time, while the actual program only resulted in 5% of revenue and disbursements. Because of this innovation, Bryce and his team were able to cut back on the mistakes and time that this took, ultimately successfully streamlining the process. If you scan the QR code on the bottom right, you can read more about this innovation on our website. Next. Another way that Lean Everyday Ideas innovations are achieving their goal of improvement is by enhancing safety. Here we have an innovation where one employee can install or remove a 25-foot guardrail section by using a carrier lift with a crane, so that employees are not required to lift, carry, or hold the guardrail, ultimately making the whole process safer for everyone involved. This innovation comes from Region 3 in Northwest Colorado, and you can see pictures on the right that show this innovation in action. Next. And a final example of an awesome innovation is a file color coding system where files are color coded in order to save time and reduce error, ultimately improving organization. And you can also see the idea card that was made for this innovation on the right. And we have a whole database of these idea cards on our website that Kaylee will elaborate on later. These are just a few examples of many that truly emphasize the improvement that Lean Everyday Ideas embodies. Next. And to answer the question of why the goals of Lean Everyday Ideas are so important, it's because we're asking employees to do more with less in a field that is rapidly changing. Big ideas can only succeed by people changing and adapting to them and making changes to how work is done. We strive to push people to come up with innovative ideas that will provide great opportunities for improvement in business, and Lean Everyday Ideas is the epitome of that. I'll now hand it over to Kaylee to discuss the solutions behind Lean Everyday Ideas. Thank you.
Thanks, Samantha. Now that we've talked a little bit about the goals, let's talk about the solution. So here on the screen is a photo of our Lean Everyday Ideas design team from 2013. We just really wanted to take a moment to recognize this awesome team that developed our LEI program. If you're interested, you can use the QR code on the screen to read a little bit more about them and all that they accomplished. Next slide, please. To really sum up the vision of the design team, people have ideas every day in the workplace, and our responsibility is to be receptive, recognize these ideas, and most importantly, share their ideas with others to support growth. When this is done correctly, it can lead to a happier workforce, more efficient workers, and an even stronger organization. Next slide, please. All right, next we're going to dive into how the LEI program actually works. So we collect ideas through an online platform, which you can see on the screen. And if you want to check it out yourself, you can use the QR code. On this website, you can see there's two options. There's an I fixed it and an I suggest option, where the I fixed it selection is for innovators that have already created something and they've already implemented it in their workplace, where the suggestion selection is for people who might just have ideas or suggestions for improvement, but they haven't been able to implement them yet. Both of these options will take the person to a Google form where we can just gather a little bit more information about your idea or your innovation. Next, please. After submitting this Google form, our team then receives it and it goes through a vetting process. Sometimes this includes a safety review, just depending on the nature of the innovation, because we really want to make sure that ideas are safe before we encourage other people to replicate them. If someone submitted an implemented idea through the iFixit channel, after the vetting process, our team makes what we call an idea card, and I'll get to that in just a little bit. But if someone submits a suggestion, then we work to connect them with the appropriate subject matter expert so they can work with someone towards implementing their idea. The QR code that you can see on the screen will take you to a more in-depth flowchart for this process that we have. Next, please. Okay, this is the template that we use when creating an idea card for an innovation, which I mentioned on the last slide. It includes a couple of sentences about the challenge or the problem that the innovation solves. It also includes a brief description of what the innovation actually is and how the person solved this problem. We also like to put on there any parts or programs that the innovator used in creating their innovation. And then we also include some benefits of implementing the idea, and these can just be things like improving safety, saving time or money, or reducing waste. You can also see that there's a link that says click here for more details. This takes the person to a Google Drive folder that will include a detailed guide for replicating this idea. It may even include some additional photos or videos on it. And then on the right side of the idea card, there's also a photo or sometimes a video, and we also include contact information for the innovator so that someone is able to reach out to them if they have any questions. Really, these idea cards just give a brief overview of the innovation with the hopes of encouraging other people to replicate it in their own workplace. Next slide. All right, so all of these idea cards are published on our public website for anyone to see. So far, we have 381 idea cards, but we constantly have more in the works. If you're interested in checking out any of them, you can use the QR code on the screen to look through our whole database. Next, please. All right, and we decided to make our database searchable because we really wanted to make finding an idea card as easy as possible. You can search by date, keyword, category, or region. And just to tie this back to the vision of the design team, our goal is really to recognize innovation and support it. And through our database, we share ideas and encourage other people to replicate them with the goal of a happier and more efficient workforce. And now I'm going to hand it over to Riley.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kaylee. So now that we've gone over the program and the process, I'm going to talk a little bit about the execution by giving a few examples. So starting with the earthwork tool, which is the idea that you see up on the screen. This idea card is from 2018, which is why you see the older logo. However, despite it being older, you'll still see all of the elements that Kaylee just described present on the card. And the nice thing about Google Suites is that responses from Google Forms automatically populate into a Google spreadsheet. So when the team of 3 engineers went to submit their innovation using our Google form, all of the information needed for the idea card was collected in that spreadsheet. And then from there, interns on the OPI team were able to make the idea card that you see right now up on the screen. If you want to look at it in more depth, you can scan the QR code that's up there. It'll pull up the idea card on your phone. And then the same process is followed for all of our idea cards, both past and present. And so once those idea cards are completed, they're uploaded to our public dashboard. Next slide, please. After an implemented idea has gone through all of the proper vetting processes and the idea card has been created, the team at OPI works really hard to spread the innovation throughout CDOT using social media outlets like our daily announcements and Spotlight on Innovation video interviews that we share on our website. And then additionally, we share every idea card on that public dashboard, so it's accessible statewide and nationwide if you go to that website. Going back to the earthwork tool example, up on this slide, you'll see a few screenshots from a virtual interview with the innovators themselves. If you want to see the video interview, you can scan the QR code up on the screen. Next slide, please. Another important step in the execution phase involves safety reviews that Kaylee mentioned. Safety reviews are not a necessary step for all innovations. However, the vast majority of innovations that fall within the maintenance category do require a safety review in order to move forward. The mower safety innovation that you see on the screen right now is an example of this. This innovation allowed roadside mowers and maintenance crews to be more visible to drivers. And given the idea itself is meant to improve safety, it definitely needs a safety review. Next slide, please. And finally, in the spirit of spreading the word, this last example is actually an idea card of our idea cards. In order to create an easily accessible centralized hub for others, we used Google Drive and Google Slides to organize all of our cards. And if you want to see our database with all our idea cards, you can scan the QR code on the screen. All that being said, I will now hand it back to Gary to wrap up LEI.
Thank you, Riley. At CDOT, during the first decade of innovation and improvement, we worked really hard to get people engaged to improve our business. And we had wonderful partners along the way. First among that list is everyone there in the state of Washington and Results Washington. Thank you again for your partnership. We would not be where we were without partnerships like this. We hope that some of the information we provided about the first decade, about how we engage people in improving our business, has inspired you to do the same. And next, I want to tell you a little bit about where we're going in the second decade of innovation and improvement at CDOT. The flagship for that is what we call Concept to Project, or our C2P program. I'm going to hand it off to Michelle Malloy, who's going to go into some detail about that. Michelle, take it away.
Thanks, Gary. I really appreciate it. So before we start diving into our Concept to Project program, I want to lay some foundational items down to keep in mind as we move forward. When we started the Concept to Project program, our maturity level in change management is actually higher than our maturity level is in business improvement project management. Of course, CDOT, we've done design and construction projects for over 100 years, so that maturity level is extremely high, but the project management on the business side is lower. And so that was a different paradigm, I think, than most organizations have, or most agencies have. Typically, we're better at project management than change management. So just a nuance there for you to think about. Also, when we say the word change management, we need to think through that. It's, typically when I say change management, people will think about change management at the project level, making sure that we get change management integrated into our project plans, which is great, but there's also another level, and that's organizational change management. And that's where we train everyone. We integrate change management into the fabric of the organization, whether that's in our announcements for positions, whether that's in our employee engagement action planning, just wherever in the organization. We really need to think about placing and putting change management in a place where we can start really maturing that overall organizational maturity. Some of the visions that we have when we do change management and the concept to project program, and we call them WIGS, wildly important goals, is to ensure that all team CDOTers who are impacted by change are successful with that change. And we want to build organizational competency and capability in order to be responsive to the changing environments around us and within CDOT. And we really want to make sure that we're realizing the intended benefits of all our desired changes or projects. And another foundational item, and we will mention ProSci later on in the presentation today, but we've partnered with ProSci, and this visualization is right and front and center in our internal website, that we really want to make sure that all of our business improvement projects are integrating project management and change management together, so that we don't forget about the people side of change. With that, I'm going to turn it over to Stephen.
Right. Hi, everybody. I'm going to talk about opportunity for improvement. So before COVID, we didn't really know how many business improvement projects were currently taking place or being planned in the future. We didn't have clear information on the level of change saturation that was occurring with employees. We also realized that there was a possibility of redundant projects that were taking place. Overall, there was a lack of transparency that was occurring, and this had a negative impact on the business decisions we were making, ultimately resulting in poor project planning. Next slide, please. So the purpose of the program that we wanted to create was so that we could get a clear vision of which projects were underway or in the planning phases. We would then use this information to help us make a better business decision, ultimately helping to create an optimal project environment. What this means is that we'd be able to allocate resources more effectively, resources such as time, attention, and most importantly, funding. All of this would help the people who are being impacted by change to be successful with that change. And then from here, I'll hand it off to Becca. She'll be introducing how we created the solution.
Thanks, Stephen. So as Michelle said, at CDOT, we are really good at delivering design and construction projects because we've been doing it for 100 years. We like to compare our capital construction projects to a refrigerator factory because, as you know, refrigerators are created in a production style process. So the same goes for our highways, bridges, culverts, etc. But business improvement projects are different in the fact that no two are ever the same, and they're more gray and have a million variables that can impact their delivery. On the slide, you can see to the left, capital construction projects are done to improve the transportation systems and our CDOT's refrigerators. But on the right, business improvement projects are done to improve the business that makes the refrigerators. Next slide. The project team wanted to further define what a business improvement project was and was not. And this is just kind of a picture that'll show what they came up with. So it is a business improvement project if it achieves a business objective and can be strategic or operational, but it is not a business improvement project if it needs facility construction projects or it has design or construction projects involved. Next slide. So where do CDOT's business improvement projects come from? Most of CDOT's business improvement projects originate at headquarters. Some have come from regions, but C2P focuses on the projects that are cross-functional and cross-regional, which will typically come from HQ. Next slide. So why did we need C2P? There was a lack of sponsorship, project management experience, and awareness of basic project management tools within the change managers. And this resulted in the innovation projects people took on suffering and in some cases not being successful. C2P helps these projects recognize their strengths and weaknesses and works with the project teams to ensure the success of their innovations. Next slide. We strive to always spend our money wisely and are stewards of the taxpayer dollar. When we don't know the information that's on this slide, the current state metrics, we can't accurately manage the many sub-portfolios of projects, and consequently, that means we can't manage change across the agency. So it's important for us to know these different metrics going into different projects. Next slide. So back in 2019, we pulled together a sponsor coalition to help support and drive the C2P program. At that time, we led the sponsor coalition through a visioning session, and this is what they came up with. We envision a culture of continuous improvement supported by a fully integrated program that will promote CDOT's values of customer service and excellence. Under this, you can see that they also created many different goals for this project and this vision. Next slide. So as you can see, we reduced the scope of these goals to get us started in achieving the vision our sponsors asked us to deliver. These are providing a one-stop shop for business improvement projects, providing transparency to CDOTers, and helping everyone who is impacted by change be successful. And now I'll hand it off to Stephen so he can talk about how project management and change management are intertwined with C2P.
Thanks, Becca. So to get started, we assembled a team of experts from across the agency. Each team member would have a variety of expertise that would help benefit the program's development. We held brainstorming sessions that would help to develop a plan on how we wanted to move forward with the program. We also held organizing sessions that would help to categorize the structure of how we wanted the program to be presented. This is where C2P really took flight. And we knew that in order for us to be successful with the program, every role at CDOT had to find value in the program. Next slide, please. So the value for our customers, we have 4 different types of customers here. The first being employees. Employees would benefit by raising their awareness of all of the projects at CDOT that were impacting them or were going to impact them. They'd also be able to access various resources that would help them to be successful with implementing their innovations. These resources would help them to feel empowered and improve their work. For the supervisors, they'd be able to increase their awareness of the projects that were impacting them and their teams. They'd be better equipped to navigate the changes that were being created by the projects, and they'd also be able to offer support. Next slide, please. For project leaders and change managers, they could develop skills through accessing tools and resources such as development and training. They'd also receive support services at the click of a button. Our executive leadership team would be able to gain a transparent look into the project lists that were published on the C2P Hub, and that'll be discussed later. They would also be able to strategically plan more efficiently by having the knowledge of all projects that were taking place across CDOT's divisions, ultimately allowing the change impact to become easier for everybody. Next slide, please. So once the pandemic hit, in order for us to adapt and maintain the momentum of the project, we had to develop sub-teams, and each sub-team had a specific focus on the development on how we wanted C2P to be presented. The sub-teams, as you can see on the slide here, were the C2P Hub team, the intake team, training and development team, the tools team, and the change management team. I'll hand it off to Lubna next, and she's going to provide some more information on what the team's responsibilities were.
Thank you, Stephen. So the C2P Hub team created an interactive web page for all CDOTers. Every role in CDOT can find value here. You have project leaders that can find a one-stop shop for training, templates, processes. Leadership, supervisors, and employees can find information about the business improvement projects and changes that are currently happening or that are about to happen. This is important so that people can find out who to contact about a project or understand how their jobs will change when that project is implemented. The top photo shows the homepage of the C2P Hub, and the bottom is the dashboard that shows all of CDOT's business improvement projects, and this can be filtered by a wide variety of data points. Next slide, please. The intake team focused their work on how to get business improvement projects into the official CDOT project list. And this is the process they came up with at a high level. So the project leader enters the project information into the intake form. This information then gets compiled into a Google Sheet. Then this data is populated into a dashboard. And finally, the dashboard that I just showed you in the earlier slide is displayed on our hub for all CDOTers to access. So not only did the intake team create this process, they also developed an initial list of possible projects. They brainstormed 200 of these in an 11-person team, quite a marathon task. And they developed the quarterly process to keep this project list up to date and sustainable. They also focused on connecting with partners throughout the agency to ensure that all projects are reflected accurately in C2P. Next slide. The intake team also needed to focus on connecting the existing pitch process. Pitch stands for providing IT concepts help. So rather than it being a standalone process, the C2P team now works hand in hand with the existing pitch process to ensure that all projects that impact people and that require software, technology, or data, they're all included in the C2P program. This also ensures that we're focused on the business side of these projects before we integrate technology with them, so that they will be more likely to be successful and deliver the desired outcomes. Next, please. One of the biggest tasks of the training and development team was that they had to identify existing training and needed training, and so they could begin to fill and work on those gaps. This team also developed a framework for project and change managers to be able to follow in order to build their skill sets in project and change management, as well as agile and process improvement. Next, please. Then we come to the C2P tools team. This team was challenged with gathering and creating a repository of necessary tools that would most effectively assist project leaders and change managers in being successful. They identified 50+ needed templates in project management, change management, agile, and process improvement. And they created, branded, and published these templates on the C2P Hub so that now anyone inside CDOT can use these tools effectively. This really helped to increase ease of access as well as standardization. Next. And lastly, we come to our C2P change management team. This team's objective was to ensure that everyone impacted by the changes that we were creating could be successful with those changes. This meant supporting people in a structured but flexible way through their transitions, both at a project and at an organizational level. So this included mitigating resistance, developing effective communication, and tapping into the what's in it for me hook for project leaders. The change management team's role is multifaceted. As you can see from that visual, it ranges from coaching, enabling cross-functional communication, and serving as a voice for effective change management implementation. To this day, the change management team continues to provide support for current and upcoming changes that the C2P program creates in its implementation phase. Next. Next, we will have Riley, who will be discussing what is the current stage of the C2P program.
Thank you, Lubna. So I'm going to be talking a little bit about the current state of the project. So in August of 2021, despite the pandemic, we were able to launch the C2P Hub. And since that launch, we are constantly working behind the scenes to provide tools and resources, customer success stories, and make sure that project dashboard is up to date. We are also working with our partners to integrate their existing processes, pitch being an example that Lubna talked about, and also working continuously to provide any project management or change management training that needs to be had, while simultaneously identifying any gaps in knowledge and addressing those. And lastly, we are working on extensive data collection. As Lubna mentioned, we got about 200 projects, and currently, as we've been working on them, we have about 100 of those projects in the database. We're still investigating about 100 more. And the team is doing this investigation by working with project leaders and also working to improve the intake process for these projects. As project leaders are changed for certain things, we can make sure that all of that information is still available and easily available so we can keep that dashboard up to date. Next slide, please. So now I'm going to be talking a little bit about where we're going with C2P. So once all the project database is up to date and most of these processes are ironed out, what's next and where are we going? One crucial next step for C2P is to begin discussions with sponsors about the need for vetting, additional resources for the project, or also portfolio management and managing change impacts at an organizational level. Step 2 starts diving into implementing and enforcing our new requirements. The goal is to have all new business improvement projects that come through C2P make charters outlining the objectives and measurables of each of those projects. And we'll also require these projects to be on our dashboard and have more frequent updates on project progress. That way, whoever is using the dashboard gets a up-to-date glimpse at each project. Step 3 is to bring back the change agent network to once again establish a two-way flow of communication between project teams and supervisors. This would also create better channels where everyone involved could stay up to date on progress and also be able to provide support when needed. And finally, step 4 is all about increasing the program's maturity. This includes tracking maturity trends over time and creating strategic approaches to integrate and reinforce project management and change management throughout CDOT. Now I'll hand it back to Michelle to wrap up C2P.
Thank you so much, Riley. So, we've made a lot of progress in the last, year, a little over a year in our execution of the design that we did for the concept of project program. And I couldn't have done it alone. So I definitely want to thank everyone who helped. Again, we had a cross-functional team from across CDOT that helped design how the C2P program was going to work. And this is all of them. So I had a wonderful sponsor coalition that really supported and helped, make sure that we had the buy-in and really, were active and visible, and they communicated about our concept to project program all over CDOT. And then our design team here couldn't have done it, spent many, many hours in a room before COVID and online after COVID started to get to the bottom line, to get our processes in place, to create our templates, to think about training, to think about everything that we needed to do. And of course, interns over the months and years really have all played a big part in helping lift this program up and get it going. So I just want to say thank you to everybody that was a part of this effort. And I said I would mention this again. We've partnered with ProSci for change management, and I believe Tim Creasy was presenting yesterday at Results Washington. If you didn't see his presentation, make sure you watch the recording. I'm sure it was great. We've really enjoyed our partnership with ProSci over the years, and looking forward to continuing partnering with them. So with that, I'm going to hand it over to Gary to wrap us up.
Thank you, Michelle. Folks, you can tell why I'm the most fortunate person on the planet. Best team ever on the planet. We do have some contact information, and of course, in the chat pane, there's a link to our PowerPoint slides. This is us, and one more, Michelle. This is us. We appreciate the opportunity over the decade to partner with Results Washington. Thank you for all the learning. Going forward into the second decade, we have some wonderful things happening. We hope to keep everybody in Washington State and elsewhere apprised of our progress. Next. And we do have time for questions. We've got about 12 minutes until the top of the hour. Are there any questions coming in from the chat pane that from everyone that's participating today that we can answer for you?
So I have a couple questions here in the Q&A. The first one's going to be for you, Gary.
Yes.
You are using Google Forms for your idea card. Was there any challenges in getting Google Forms approved as a platform for use in your government agency?
No, there wasn't. In the state of Colorado, when I joined the state, we were a Microsoft shop, Microsoft Outlook and PowerPoint and whatnot. We converted to being a Google shop. We still do have Microsoft products around, but we utilize a full suite of Google products, and that includes Google Forms. Very useful for a lot of things, collecting data, certainly the capability behind the scenes to make that visible to everybody. So we love that, and we didn't have a challenge on that. I presume that's not necessarily true across all states and all the folks that might be listening in today. Again, we're glad to chat with folks today or even offline from the contact information we provided about how we put that together.
Thanks, Gary. The next question I can answer. What tools or processes are used to sustain this system/approach? How do you measure and know it is all working in the way it was intended or not? So this is in reference to the C2P section of our presentation. We're implementing a charter for project managers to fill out so that we can more accurately follow their progress and make sure each step is being held accountable and being done to its fullest potential. And then this will definitely help us keep better track of it. It's something that we're working on right now. The next question, this can be for anybody, so whoever wants to answer this one. Do frontline workers at CDOT have a certain percentage of time set aside to work on business improvement projects? As your LEI program matured, did staff have trouble finding time during their daily jobs to work on improvements, complete idea cards, etc.?
Wow, so there's a couple of questions in there. I'll take a shot at it, and other folks, glad to have you ring in. We haven't actually set a goal to say, 1% of your time or 2% or specific hours during the day, work on a process improvement. Rather, we're asking folks to fix what bugs them. So, and don't try to take on 20 things that bug you. Try to take on one thing at a time that bugs you. And to help that, we have information about this in new employee orientation at CDOT to say, this is part and parcel of how we're trying to implement our longstanding excellence value. That's at least 40 years old, and certainly I believe it's older than that, as well as our State Smart Government Act. So there isn't a specific time of the day or something like that. It's interesting at CDOT, we have 3,000 people scattered at 200 different staff locations. What I didn't mention is that we're a 24/7 operation, like many DOTs are. Many of us in offices are working the regular 8 to 5 day, but we have folks working around the clock to make sure that we can operate and maintain the transportation system. So we haven't actually set aside specific times. But there's the notion that we want everybody to improve something that bugs them. And Rebecca, what was the second part of that question?
So the second part of that question, sorry, 1 second. So the question was, do frontline workers at CDOT have certain percentages of time set aside to work on business improvement projects? And as your LEI program matured, did staff have trouble finding time during their daily jobs to work on improvements and complete idea cards?
Oh, so I appreciate the second part. I had neglected to mention that. There are certainly places and times when we have difficulty doing that. During this is what we call winter off season for our maintenance crews. The 3,000 team CDOTers, about 60% are in maintenance. And there are some times when it's everything you can do just to get the daily work done. There are also downtimes, times that are less crowded, and that's when people are working on fixing something that bugs them.
Awesome, thank you, Gary. This next one, can you go back to the slide with the screenshot of the dashboard? I think around slide 62, and give a quick overview of what you chose to display on it.
I'll do one better. I just brought over the actual website that we have internally at CDOT. This is our dashboard. We have a ton of information that we collect on every project. And so this is just a front page. We have different views you can look at, and you can definitely filter by a ton of different information. I think one thing that's really interesting, and we are actually at 100, I have 87 sitting here right now, but one thing that we definitely like to focus on is making sure that we ask everybody about their projects, who is impacted by the changes that your project's going to create. And so that we can filter by that, basically figuring out, for example, projects that impact all of CDOT. So we'll filter by that one first. So that gave us 27. And then if I wanted to look at, engineering in the regions, who's being impacted by change in the regions? So 47 changes for engineers in the regions is a lot of change. And so that has been able to lead to, questions being asked and us to start thinking about how do we manage change at an organizational level? And, ensuring that we're not impacting our people on the ground in the middle of construction season for engineers or in the middle of winter for maintenance. So that's really going to be helping us, I think, in the future as we move forward to start managing change. I hope that answered the question. I didn't get into specific items because there's just so many of the data points that we collect.
To piggyback on that, Michelle, are you using Power BI for your dashboard?
Yes. Yes, we primarily, and I saw something about Google. Somebody asked if we had problems, getting Google approved. Where Colorado State is a Google agency. I mean, we use everything Google. So there was no problems with Google, and it integrates well with Power BI as well. So we are using that.
Becca, we may have time for one more question before the top of the hour. Could you pick one for us?
Yeah. So what if the what bugs you is not in your realm of improving? It's in a different area, but it still bugs you?
Oh, appreciate that question. So our Lean Everyday Ideas has two major channels, what we call I Fixed It and the I Suggest channel. So the I Fixed It is for things that are in your control. For I Suggest, that's where we ask people to put in essentially a problem statement. Here's something that bugs me. I don't have complete control on it. And here are the details. Then we work behind the scenes as a matchmaking service, really. Somebody that has an issue, we can usually match them with somebody that has expertise in this area or control in the area, and they can work together to get a small project together to address that. So the I Fixed It, that's stuff I can work on myself. The I Suggest, those things that are bugging me, that I want to work with somebody and I don't know who to work with. 3,000 people, 200 different staff locations. It's useful to have that matchmaking service. All right, Michelle, if you could roll to the last slide. On behalf of my entire team, I want to thank you all the participants today. Thank you to to Kelly and Janine for our ASL interpretation. Thank you to Results Washington for the long-term partnership. We look forward into the second decade of innovation improvement to continue to partner with you. Thank you. I will turn it back to Rachel at Results Washington.
Yeah, thank you so much, Gary, Michelle, Kaylee, Lubna, Samantha, Stephen, Rebecca, and Riley. That was a fantastic session. We are so grateful for your partnership, and I think I really love that we have this opportunity to learn from each other. I learned a lot, and it was really inspiring to see all the great work that you all are doing.